Youth make up around 60% of Iraq's 40 million people. However, among the youth, 17% of men and 27% of women are unemployed, according to the World Bank. After graduating from university, many spend years waiting to be appointed to a job in the government, which is Iraq's biggest employer.
Based on my experience here, that it's pretty much has related to the harmful residue of the pre-2003 regime. It was a very socialist regime, and I think it seeped into the culture of the country. So a lot of people now in Iraq see that it is a lot more of a stable alternative to anything else to opt for a job with the government.
I don't want to say it's easy to get the job there, but there is less skills required when you want to work with the government. If we compare it with the private sectors, because private sector is always require more skills, not only the degree, they need skills like in computer skills, language skills, etc. So that's why most of young people not happy, or they don't have that required skills.
With the lack of government jobs, a still fragile private sector, and more recent boosts in the country's internet and smartphone penetration, the startup movement is gaining momentum in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad. A solution to unemployment is The Station, established last year by young Iraqis, including Haider Hamzoz, to assist startup companies. Now, it's already home to more than 25 startups.
Starting in 2014 and 15, a lot of things changed in the community. ISIS entered to Iraq in 2014. There is like a need to have a strong community, as a place that we can work on. So that's why we have the station in 2018 established. But this idea, it's very, very old. That's why we have a space, so people, they can empower themselves in all levels, even with the blogging and citizen journalism. Plus, empowering people in their skills so they can find jobs with the private sector, or they can find a space to launch their startups.
So at the station, we are a co-working space. We do plan to transform into an incubator within the next few years. But at the moment, we're just a co-working space. We provide desks to startups that apply online. So we have an application form, and you fill it out, and then you're invited for an interview. So we have a vetting process. We only have about room for 40 startups at the station. So we do have to have a vetting process to be able to make sure that the people that are inside the co-working space are making use of the space, of the training programs, and of the facility itself. One of the major issues that we have in the country is that it's very expensive to rent, especially in Baghdad, which is where a lot of startups tend to operate and exist, because it's a very big market here. And so we provide desks for about $150 per month. With that, you get free access to the internet. You have obviously access to the facilities from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. our opening hours. You have, your priority for any of our training programs, any events.
We find it is very important for young people to change themselves and focus about building their skills, because always the private sector suffering from finding qualified people to work with their companies, even with minimum skills. And this is not the students, they are, and the new graduated people, they are victims, because the education system also very poor when it comes to the skills of life, or skills, or prepare graduated students that are qualified for the market need.
The station services not only help build startup businesses, but also offer a supportive community and an inclusive entrepreneurial climate.
So what we want to do here is we want to teach people the attitude of being an entrepreneur. It's about not being afraid to fail. It's about thinking outside of the box. It's about being innovative, resilient, There are angel investors in the US that won't invest in a startup if it hasn't failed at least once. I mean, that's testament to something. I mean, you can't be afraid to fail. And in a country like Iraq, you will fail the first time round, probably the second time round. There's also a chance you'll fail a third time, because there are things that exist in this country that don't exist abroad. You know, the infrastructure issues that we have, the lack of internet, lack of electricity, water, traffic, this all will together, combined, force someone who isn't financially capable just yet to feel that, you know, this isn't really possible. So what we're trying to do is we're hoping that if we can create a new attitude here, a cultural one, because here you're not only facing pressure from your peers, you're facing pressure from your family, and your families want you to be stable, so they'll push you towards the public sector, tell you, get a job, get a monthly salary, and you're fine. Why? You don't need to start a business, you don't need to lose money, you don't need to go and apply for a loan. All this seems too much of a hassle for them. And it can be very hard if your friends and your family are telling you don't do this, or you're, let's say, the outcast of the community. So what we're trying to do is make the entrepreneur not the outcast, but the role model, and something to aspire to. So once we have a few successful stories in Iraq, or successful startups that made it and traveling the world, making money, providing services to their country, I'm pretty sure it will be a domino effect.
The business models and growth challenges of Iraq's startups are no different than startups elsewhere in the world. However, they face additional Iraq-specific challenges.
The biggest challenge we're facing is capacity building. You'll find that because the ecosystem is very young, we're pretty much, this generation is the generation that's going to be the mentors of the ecosystem. So in order for us to be able to make sure that this ecosystem is thriving, we're going to need really creative entrepreneurs, we're going to need a lot of mentors, a lot of trainers, which is something that everyone here is self-learning. So for us to be able to train people who have never heard of a startup before and provide them with capacity building, either we are forced to bring them from abroad or we'll provide them with basic training. So being able to move forward and provide intermediate training, advanced, maybe open an accelerator program, we'll find a bit of trouble because we won't find as many human resources here as we would actually need. So one of our issues is bringing people from abroad.
Beside the funding, we have, because to be independent in Iraq is very difficult. If you want to be strong, you need to depend on a party, and that's impossible because the party, they have like agenda they want to promote, young people they want to control, etc. They don't believe in young people. They believe they are a tool they can use in the elections. So that's why we refuse a lot of funds coming from political party.
But many jobless Iraqis say it is still not enough to help tackle growing unemployment around the country. It seems the government has not achieved its commitment to empower youth.
Government, they don't have like a clear image what they need to do. They're always depending on international community and to support them in that, but it's difficult. They don't have a clear vision how they can empower these young people, how they can solve the problem, even simple one. So the future of Iraq, it's still not clear. The government only focus on security. They don't focus on education. They don't focus on anything. So the young people lost. They don't know what their needs, what their priorities, what their opportunities, what the challenges they are facing.
Did they help solve the problem? No. Young people actually are very dependent on NGOs here. The work that NGOs provide, whether it's microfinancing or just training programs or just humanitarian relief. Since the new government has come into place, they haven't done anything. But we have sent a few invitations to a couple of our roundtables and our events with young people, and a couple of maybe the financial advisor to the PMO would attend. And that in itself, for us, is a step in the right direction because we didn't have that bridge before. The fact that they have come, they're listening, they're taking down notes is a step in the right direction. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We don't really want them getting their hands active in the ecosystem and trying to, help us move it into a direction. We just want them to provide us with the framework for us to be able to flourish. policy reform. I mean, if there's anything that I would suggest to them, it's policy reform. You know, in all the right areas, we need to make this environment conducive for businesses to scale up and grow. Without that, we're always going to plateau. So you'll find that startups here can reach a level, whether it's, we can call it whatever we want, level 5, for example. And they can't move forward beyond that because there are bureaucratic issues that we face, infrastructure, finance, no access to finance here. I mean, all of these issues are pretty much counterproductive, not just for startups, but just for businesses in general in the country, whether they're coming from abroad or whether they're national. So if there's anything that I would suggest to the government, it's policy reform. You know, hold roundtables, form any groups that need to be formed so that you have a bridge to young people so that you can listen to what exactly are the issues and so that they can plan and strategize for the next 5 to 10 years.